Harrison Reed's hands went numb, not from the cold December air bleeding through the grocery store's automatic doors, not from the weight of the shopping basket cutting into his palm, but from seeing her, Isabelle. 5 years. 5 years since she'd walked out, and here she stood, 3 feet away in the checkout line, looking hollow and tired, and nothing like the woman who'd left. His daughter Rosie tugged at his coat. The girl had never met her mother, didn't know the face, didn't know the story of why their family was just 2 instead of 3. But children have a way of seeing what adults try to hide. And when Rosie looked up at the stranger with her mother's eyes and asked one simple, innocent question, the entire store seemed to hold its breath. The fluorescent lights hummed. Christmas music played somewhere in the distance. And in that frozen moment, every carefully built wall, every practiced defense, every year of buried pain came crashing down. Some truths can't stay hidden, not even at Christmas. The fluorescent lights of Miller's grocery made everything look washed out and tired, much like Harrison felt after his 8-hour shift at the electronics repair shop. He stood in the cereal aisle with Rosie, his 7-year-old daughter, calculating which box would stretch their budget furthest. Christmas Eve shopping wasn't his choice, but the overtime he'd worked meant this was his only option. Rosie's hand found his, small and warm. She had his stubborn chin and her mother's eyes, though she'd never know that. Wide and gray, those eyes looked up at him with patience beyond her years. "We need milk too, Dad," she said, that slight lisp from her missing tooth making him smile despite his exhaustion. They moved through the store efficiently. 5 years of single parenting had taught Harrison to shop fast, to keep Rosie distracted from the things they couldn't afford. She never complained about their cramped apartment or second-hand clothes. She was good. Better than he deserved. The guilt lived in his chest permanently now. This weight that whispered he should provide more, be more, somehow filled the space left by 2 parents when he was only 1. But the world didn't adjust for single fathers making minimum wage. Near the dairy section, Harrison turned a corner and time fractured. Because there, reaching for milk with trembling hands, stood Isabelle. She looked wrong, thinner, older, hollow in ways that had nothing to do with weight. Her blonde hair hung in a messy knot. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by a faded jacket with a torn pocket. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but it was unmistakably her, the woman he'd loved, the woman who'd left him with a screaming 2-year-old and a note saying she couldn't do this anymore. Harrison's feet stopped moving. 5 years of carefully built walls crumbled. His hand tightened on the basket until his knuckles went white. Isabelle must have felt his stare because she turned. Their eyes met across the polished floor, and he watched color drain from her face. Her hand dropped. The trembling got worse. "Harrison." Barely a whisper. Rosie peered around his hip, curious about what had frozen her father. She looked at Isabelle with the open interest of a child who didn't know she was staring at the woman who'd given birth to her, and then walked away. "Do you know my dad?" Rosie asked, fearless in her innocence. Isabelle's eyes dropped to Rosie, and something shattered in her expression. Tears welled up so fast they spilled over. She pressed a hand to her mouth, and a sound escaped that was half gasp, half sob. "I used to," Isabelle managed. Christmas music played overhead. Shoppers passed, oblivious. Harrison wanted to leave, to protect Rosie from this complication. But his daughter was looking up at him now, confused by his rigid posture, by an expression she'd never seen on his face. "Harrison, please." Isabelle's voice cracked. "Can we talk? Just for a minute?" Every instinct screamed no. But there was something in her face. Something desperately broken that made him hesitate. 5 minutes. Coffee shop next door." Isabelle nodded quickly and hurried toward the exit, shoulders hunched like she expected him to change his mind. Dad? Who is that lady? Rosie tugged his hand. Someone I used to know. The truth, just not all of it. They checked out in silence. Harrison's mind spun while his hands moved on autopilot. This was a mistake. He shouldn't expose Rosie to this. But his feet carried him next door anyway, to the small coffee shop that was nearly empty on Christmas Eve. Isabelle sat by the window, hands wrapped around a paper cup, like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. When they approached, her eyes went immediately to Rosie, with a hunger that made Harrison's stomach twist. He sat down and pulled Rosie onto his lap, the gesture protective. The message clear. Isabelle flinched but nodded, kept her distance exactly where he'd said it. I didn't think I'd ever see you again, she said, voice rough. That makes two of us. Harrison's tone was flat, emotionless. Years of practice. Rosie shifted, looking between them with increasing confusion. Dad? It's okay, sweetheart. This is Isabelle, an old friend. The lie tasted bitter. Hi, Rosie. Isabelle's voice shook. You're so beautiful. Rosie processed the fact that this stranger knew her name. How do you know me? Isabelle glanced at Harrison. He gave the smallest head shake. Your dad and I knew each other before you were born, Isabelle said carefully. That satisfied Rosie for the moment. She leaned against Harrison's chest, still watching with curiosity. What do you want, Isabelle? Harrison kept his voice low. I know I have no right to ask anything. Isabelle swallowed hard. But I needed to try, to tell you I'm sorry, that I was wrong. You were wrong. The words came out sharp. You left, walked away from us without looking back, and now you're sorry? Tears spilled down Isabelle's cheeks. I was sick, Harrison. Severe postpartum depression that spiraled into something darker. I was having thoughts about hurting myself, about hurting her. I was terrified. Every time I looked at Rosie, I thought she deserved better than a mother who couldn't get out of bed, who had to fight the urge to crash the car every time she drove. Harrison's jaw tightened. He'd suspected back then, had tried to get her help. But she'd refused. So you left, decided we'd be better off without you, and just disappeared. I know. Isabelle's hands shook. I know I took the coward's way out. I've spent every day regretting it. I've been in therapy for 3 years. I'm on medication that works. I've been trying to become someone who might deserve a second chance. You can't make this right. Harrison's arms tightened around Rosie. Do you know what it was like? The nights she cried for you? Learning to do her hair? Answering why everyone else had a mom? Rosie had gone still in his lap, listening. Harrison realized too late that she understood more than he wanted. This isn't the time, he said quietly. I know. Isabelle wiped her face. But I'm asking anyway. Please. I'm not asking to come back into your life. Just for a chance to let Rosie know I exist, that I think about her every day. No, you don't get to disrupt her life because you're finally ready. Dad? Rosie's voice was small. She twisted to look up at him. Why are you mad? I'm not mad, sweetheart. You sound mad, Rosie insisted. She looked at Isabelle. You're crying. Did he make you cry? Your dad didn't make me cry. Isabelle's voice was gentle. I made myself cry by doing something very wrong a long time ago. Now I'm sad because I can't take it back. Rosie frowned. What did you do? I left someone I loved very much because I was scared and sick. I thought it was right. But it was the biggest mistake of my life. You left someone you loved? Rosie's eyes widened. That's really sad. Yes, it is. Harrison felt control slipping. This wasn't how this should go. But Rosie was leaning forward, studying Isabelle with empathy that caught him off guard. Did you tell them sorry? Rosie asked. I'm trying to, but sometimes sorry isn't enough. My teacher says everyone deserves a second chance if they're really sorry. Rosie spoke with certainty. Are you really sorry? Isabel's face crumpled. More than anything. Do you promise not to leave again? The question hung heavy. Harrison wanted to interrupt, but found himself frozen. Isabelle looked at Rosie carefully. I can't promise that, because I already broke the biggest promise I ever made. So I can't make new promises until I prove I know how to keep them. Rosie tilted her head. Like how Dad says, I have to prove I can take care of a goldfish before getting a puppy. Despite everything, Harrison felt the corner of his mouth twitch. Exactly like that, Isabelle said softly. Rosie turned to Harrison. Can she prove it? Dad? There it was, the question he'd been dreading. He looked at his daughter, at the hope blooming in her face. Whatever he decided would shape her understanding of forgiveness, of second chances. Rosie, it's not that simple. Why not? Stubborn now. If she's sorry and wants to try, why can't she? Because grown-ups have to make hard choices to keep people safe. Safe from what? Genuine confusion. She doesn't look dangerous. She looks sad. Harrison glanced at Isabelle, crying silently. She did look sad, devastated. Not all danger is the kind you can see, Harrison said. Rosie slipped off his lap and stood between them, expression too solemn for 7 years old. Dad, you're always sad too, when you think I'm not looking. Her voice was soft but determined. You get this face like you're hurting somewhere I can't see. And Miss Isabelle has the same face, like you're both hurting in the same place. Maybe if you tried not to hurt separately, you could hurt less together. The words hit Harrison like a physical blow. He stared at his daughter, this small person who saw through every defense he'd built. He was hurting, had been this whole time, and he'd thought he was hiding it. Isabelle made a sound between a laugh and sob. She's brilliant. I know, Harrison said automatically. If you both love me, Rosie said with devastating simplicity, why are you making each other so sad? The question hung in the air, impossible to dismiss. Harrison looked at Isabelle, really looked past his anger. Saw medication bottles in her purse, a therapy workbook, clothes hanging loose, all signs of battles fought alone. And he saw something else. The same exhaustion he felt every morning, the same weariness from carrying too much too long. Rosie was right. They were both hurting in the same place. Rosie, sit over there for a minute. I need to talk to Miss Isabelle. Rosie hesitated, but obeyed, moving to a nearby table while watching with worried eyes. Harrison leaned forward. You can't just come back. You understand that? I don't expect anything. Isabelle's voice steadied. Just a chance to be present, to let her know I exist. She is okay. We are okay. I won't let you destroy what we've built. I know, but she already sees you're hurting. Kids blame themselves when their parents are sad. Ice formed in Harrison's stomach because she was right. He'd caught Rosie trying extra hard to be good, to earn smiles. What are you suggesting? Maybe hiding the truth isn't protecting her. Maybe it's teaching her some pain is too big to talk about. Isabelle took a breath. Start small. Let me see her sometimes. Let her know me as a person before dealing with who I really am. And when she figures it out, we deal with it together. Answer honestly. Let her be angry. Show her people can make terrible mistakes and still deserve second chances. Harrison wanted to refuse, but Rosie's question echoed. Why are you making each other so sad? He'd spent 5 years angry, 5 years claiming they were fine. But fine wasn't happy, and maybe Rosie deserved to decide what forgiveness looked like. 1 month. You prove you can be consistent. Once a week, public places, supervised. Miss 1 meeting, and it's over. Isabelle's eyes widened. I can do that. And I want proof you're in therapy, taking medication. Isabelle pulled out her phone with trembling hands, showed him her calendar, therapy every week, psychiatrist appointments, support groups. I've been getting help for 3 years. Harrison studied the calendar, then her face. He made his choice. 1 month, starting after Christmas, Boxing Day, Riverside Park, 2 o'clock. Thank you. Tears streamed down her face. Don't thank me yet. Just show up. He collected Rosie, who hugged Isabelle spontaneously before they left. Outside, snow fell harder, catching in Rosie's dark curls. She chattered about Christmas while Harrison walked beside her, feeling the weight of his decision. He'd taken a risk, maybe a mistake. But as they walked through falling snow, Rosie's hand warm in his, he thought about her question. About whether pain shared was lighter than pain carried alone. He didn't know yet, but he'd given them all a chance to find out. The weeks unfolded in careful increments. Every Sunday at 2, they met Isabelle at Riverside Park. She arrived early every time, brought hot chocolate, remembered details Rosie mentioned, asked follow-up questions that showed she listened. Slowly, something shifted. Harrison stopped expecting her to disappear, started planning visits as routine, saw the genuine effort she put in, never overstepping, never pushing. Rosie adored her, the uncomplicated affection of a child for a kind adult, not yet weighted with knowledge. But that conversation was coming. It was the 8th week, early March, when everything changed. Warmer weather, first hints of spring. They sat on their usual bench while Rosie played on the monkey bars. "She's remarkable," Isabelle said softly. "You did an amazing job." "We did an amazing job." The words surprised him. "She's got your laugh, your stubbornness." Isabelle smiled through tears. "I noticed." Comfortable silence. Then, "When will you tell her who I am?" "When she's ready, when you've proven you're not leaving again." "Have I?" Small voice. "Proven that." Harrison thought about 2 months of consistency, of Isabelle showing up, staying present, never demanding more. "You're getting there." "Dad, Miss Isabelle, watch this." Rosie hung upside down from the bars, arms spread wide. "That's amazing, sweetheart," Harrison called. Rosie climbed down and ran over, breathless. She scrambled onto the bench between them, suddenly serious. "Can I ask something?" Harrison's stomach tightened. "Of course." "Miss Isabelle, do you have any kids?" The question landed like a bomb. Isabelle froze, eyes darting to Harrison in panic. He should deflect, change the subject. But something stopped him. Maybe 2 months of watching her show up. Maybe exhaustion from carrying this secret. Maybe just time. "Why do you ask, sweetheart?" Rosie shrugged, but her gaze was intent. "Because she looks at me like you do sometimes. Like I'm the most important thing. I thought maybe she has a kid somewhere she loves like that." Isabelle made a sound between sob and laugh. Her hands shook. Harrison reached over without thinking, covered her hands with his, gave a squeeze. Permission. "I had a daughter once," Isabelle whispered. "A beautiful little girl." "Had?" Rosie's eyes went wide. "What happened?" "I lost her. I made terrible choices and lost her. But I think about her every day. Love her every day." Rosie was quiet, processing. "That's really sad. Will you ever find her again?" Isabelle looked at Harrison. He looked back, and he made his decision. His daughter deserved truth. "Rosie, Miss Isabelle's daughter is sitting right here." Rosie blinked, confused. Then understanding crashed across her face. Eyes widened, mouth opened. She looked at Isabelle, really looked, making connections. "You're my mom?" Isabelle nodded through tears. "Yes, I'm your mom, and I'm so sorry I wasn't there." "Why did you leave?" Rosie's voice cracked. "Didn't you love me? I loved you so much it scared me. When I got sick, when I couldn't think straight, all I could think was, you deserved better than a broken mother. So I left." and it was wrong. The wrongest thing I've ever done. But I did it because I loved you." Rosie cried now, confused and hurt. She turned to Harrison, buried her face against his chest. "Dad?" Harrison wrapped his arms around her. Over her head, he looked at Isabelle, who looked destroyed. "It's okay to be sad, to be confused, to be angry. You can feel however you need to feel." "I don't know how I feel," Rosie sobbed. "That's okay, too." They sat like that for a long time. Park quiet. Wind calm. Finally, Rosie pulled back, wiping her face. Eyes red and puffy, but she looked at Isabelle with determination. "If you both love me, why are you making each other so sad?" Same question as weeks ago, but it hit differently now. Harder. Because this time, Rosie knew the weight of what she was asking. Harrison felt something crack open in his chest. Something held closed for 5 years. Because Rosie was right. They were both sad, both hurting, both carrying weight alone that maybe could be shared. "Come here," Harrison said to Isabelle. She looked uncertain, afraid to hope. He held out his arm. After a moment, Isabelle moved closer. Harrison pulled her in, creating a circle around both of them. They stayed like that. 3 people who'd been broken finally, tentatively, beginning to heal. Spring turned to summer. Isabelle came for dinner once a week, then twice. Rosie called her mom sometimes, testing the word. Other times, Isabelle, needing distance. Harrison let her navigate at her own pace. They had hard conversations about why Isabelle left, about mental illness, about forgiveness and trust, and what family meant. Rosie was angry sometimes, confused often, but remarkably resilient, capable of holding complexity. Slowly, carefully, they started feeling like family. Not what they'd been before. Something new. Something forged from broken pieces. It was late September, a Tuesday night, when Harrison got the call, half asleep on the couch after putting Rosie to bed. The ringing jerked him awake, heart pounding with primal fear. Unknown number. "Is this Harrison Reed?" Professional voice. Female. Urgent. "Yes. Memorial Hospital. We have Isabelle Marshall here. You're her emergency contact. There's been an accident." The world tilted. "What kind of accident?" "A car hit her crossing the street. She's stable, but you should come." Harrison woke Mrs. Chen from next door, explained in fragments. She'd stay with Rosie. He drove to the hospital in 10 minutes, hands white-knuckled. Mind racing through terrible possibilities. 3 months. They'd been rebuilding for 3 months. It couldn't end now. Emergency room, behind a thin curtain, right leg in a cast, road rash on her left arm, bandage around her head, bruises forming, but alive, conscious. Harrison, rough, pained. He was at her bedside immediately. What happened? Didn't see it coming. Stepped off the curb and she winced. "I'm okay. Doctor said I'm okay." Jesus, Isabelle. Fear becoming anger. I know. And lying in the street, all I could think was, I might not see Rosie again. Might not get to tell you. She stopped. "Tell me what?" "That you've become my reason. Both of you. Every morning I try to be better. It's because of you. The thought that I might lose that chance." She broke off crying. Harrison sat on the bed's edge and pulled her into an awkward hug. "You didn't lose the chance. You're still here." The doctor explained injuries. 6 to 8 weeks for the leg. Physical therapy. Follow-ups. "Do you have help at home?" Isabelle's face fell. "I live alone." "She can stay with us," Harrison heard himself say. Both stared. Harrison's heart pounded. "Your apartment has stairs. Ours doesn't. We have a spare room. It makes sense." "Harrison, I can't." "You're not asking. I'm offering." Isabelle nodded through tears. "Thank you." They brought her home the next day. Rosie's face when she saw Isabelle bruised and bandaged cycled through emotions before landing on relief. "You're okay?" "I'm okay, sweetheart. Just banged up." "Can I hug you?" "Gentle hug." Rosie climbed carefully onto the bed, wrapped arms around Isabelle's neck. Harrison watched them cry and felt his throat tighten. That night, after Rosie was in bed, Harrison brought Isabelle medication and water. "Thank you for all this." "You don't have to thank me. We're doing this because we want to. You're part of our family now." Isabelle's eyes filled. "I don't know what I did to deserve a second chance." "You showed up. That's what you did. You showed up every week, did the work, and now we'll take care of you while you heal." Weeks fell into rhythm. Harrison helped Isabelle mornings before taking Rosie to school. Worked, came home, made dinner. Rosie hovered near Isabelle, making sure she had everything. They ate together, did homework together, existed as a unit. The apartment that had been Harrison and Rosie's began feeling like it belonged to three. 6 weeks post-accident, Isabelle got her cast removed. More mobile now, she could help more. Harrison came home one day to find her in the kitchen making pasta. "You shouldn't be on your feet." "I needed to do something useful. You've been taking care of me for weeks. My turn." After dinner, after Rosie was in bed, they ended up on the couch, movie playing that neither watched. "I should probably start thinking about going back to my apartment," Isabelle said quietly. Harrison's stomach dropped. "Do you want to go back?" Long silence. "No, but I don't want to overstay my welcome." "What if I don't want you to go?" Isabelle turned, hope and fear on her face. "What are you saying?" "Having you here has been good. For all of us. Rosie's happier than I've seen her, and I've been alone so long." I forgot what it felt like to share things with someone. Harrison, voice thick. "I'm not saying we jump back into being married, but maybe you could stay, as part of our family, as Rosie's mom and my partner, friend, whatever we call it." Tears streamed down Isabelle's face. "I'd like that. More than anything." Silence, letting weight settle. Then Isabelle said, "For what it's worth, I never stopped loving you. The entire 5 years." Harrison's chest tightened. "I'm not sure I know how to be in love again, but I care about you. I want you here. Maybe that's enough to start with. More than enough." They fell asleep on the couch, hands linked. December came, completing the circle. Christmas Eve arrived exactly 1 year after that grocery store encounter. Harrison stood in the kitchen making hot chocolate, while Rosie and Isabelle laughed, decorating the tree they'd picked together. "Dad, come see." Harrison carried 3 mugs to the living room. The tree was covered in ornaments, lights twinkling. At the top, an empty space. "We saved the star for you," Rosie announced. She held up a handmade star covered in glitter. "Did you make this?" "We both did. Together. We thought it should represent all of us." Harrison looked at the star. Rosie's neat printing spelled family, enhanced by Isabelle's touches. His throat tightened. "It's perfect." He lifted Rosie to place the star on top. It sat there, crooked and glittery and absolutely right. After Rosie was in bed, Harrison and Isabelle sat on the couch, looking at tree lights. "Do you remember last year?" Isabelle asked. "Running into each other?" I remember thinking my world was about to fall apart. And now? Harrison thought about the past year, about learning to be partners again. They hadn't remarried, hadn't needed to. They were something new. "Now, I think Rosie was the smartest person in the room all along." "What do you mean?" "She asked why we were making each other sad. That one question changed everything, made us realize we didn't have to carry everything alone." Isabelle smiled through tears. "She's remarkable. We made something remarkable together." Harrison reached over, tucked hair behind her ear. "And I think we're making something remarkable again. It's different than before. But maybe it's better. I love you, Isabelle said. She'd said it many times, never expecting it back. This time, Harrison said, I love you too. Isabelle's breath caught. You don't have to. I'm not. Harrison pressed his forehead to hers. I've been scared to say it. But watching you and Rosie tonight, I realized I've been in love with you again for months, just too scared to admit it. Isabelle kissed him, soft and careful and full of promise. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. They stayed up late, talking and planning and dreaming, about Isabelle finishing her counseling degree, about Harrison maybe pursuing engineering, about Rosie growing up with two parents who loved her and each other. Eventually, they fell asleep on the couch, tangled together, tree lights still twinkling. That's where Rosie found them Christmas morning. She didn't wake them immediately, just stood there, 8 years old now, looking at her parents sleeping peacefully, and smiled. Later, she'd tell her best friend she'd gotten everything she'd asked for. But truth was, she hadn't needed Santa at all. Just one question, asked at exactly the right moment. If you both love me, why are you making each other so sad? The question that stopped everyone cold. The question that broke open every wall. The question that led 3 broken people to discover that broken things could be mended. Some families are born whole, some are torn apart, and some are rebuilt piece by careful piece, stronger for having been broken. The Reed family was one of the lucky ones.